Good afternoon. This is Dennis Miracle. Today I'm going to record just a small introduction showing the pieces you need to make this purse that you see on the screen, which is called Ruby. And so let me just go through quickly the pieces of fabric and such that you need. So this is a design, and let's go to the table over here. This is a made for the 10 by 6 hoop, so you will need obviously a zipper, which I believe this zipper is about 14 inches long. You will need 2 of these connectors, which would be used to connect some cross body straps to. I mean, they're optional. You may not want to put straps, but if you do, you might want to, you would include them now or prepare them now. And this is simply grosgrain ribbon cut 3 inches long with a key ring stuck in the middle, and I staple them at the top to hold them together. So we have those items there. You will need 2 pieces of fabric, one for the main fabric on the front of the bag, and another piece for the back of the bag. So I'm using these 2 beautiful floral pieces of fabric. They're from Michael Miller. I think they're called Somerset. But anyhow, you need those for the front and back exterior. You need a piece of coordinating fabric to act as an applique piece on the front, and you need 2 pieces of lining fabric, and you need also for the little center medallion for this piece right here in the center, you need a piece of fabric, which I'm just going to simply use this little piece of fabric here. It's 2 inches by 2 inches should be sufficient. This is probably 2 inches by 4 inches, but I'm going to try to use this pretty area in here, or maybe this area down here, I'm not sure. And then, and all of these, oh, I'm forgetting 2 important parts. You're going to need some batting. You need 2 pieces of batting. And now you need a piece of batting. Let me start over. All of these, with the exception of the little piece here, all of this fabric is cut 7 by 11 for a 6 by 10 design for the 6 by 10 hoop. So this piece of batting is cut 7 by 11. However, you need 1 piece of smaller batting because it's going to go underneath the zipper on the front. So the zipper takes up 1 inch. So I make this 6 by 11. And you can see that I've cobbled together and taped together 3 different pieces to go under the zipper, because I had all of these pieces and I just didn't want to throw them away. And so they should be fine once they're in there and all the quilting goes over them. You'll never know that they're separate pieces, I don't believe. So that's 6 by 11, this piece here. So anyhow, I just wanted to, I'm not going to film the rest of the tutorial today. I'm going to do it tomorrow. And I will start with, as I always do, having my first step run, which is the general outline of the bag and the area where for the placement of the zipper. And so that's what we'll start with tomorrow. So I'll be back then and we'll do the entire tutorial. Thank you so much. See you tomorrow. All right, good morning. This is Dennis Miracle again, and I'm rested and ready to make this tutorial on the Ruby purse. And this is a probably one of 7 or 8 designs that have kind of the same theme. I think they have a vintage feel to them, and they're really pretty, I think. But anyhow, you can barely see because the thread is light green that I have sewn out the first step, which is just showing the placement for the zipper and the boundaries, perimeter of the design. So our first thing to do is put on the zipper, and I have a zipper here, and let me make sure it works before I go through the whole thing and find out it doesn't. And if it's a number 3 zipper, it's approximately 1 inch wide, or 1 inch wide, and you need to there are 4 lines here, if you can see them. I hope you can. The top one, the second one, third one, fourth one. It should fit directly over these lines. Let me see. That looks good. And let me put a piece of tape right here in the center. I just put it right on the edge, and then longer pieces of tape at the ends to hold it down. Let me see. Alrighty, it's taped down. Let me stick it in the machine and run step 2, which will sew the zipper down. So I'll be right back. Alright, I think you can see the zipper has been sewn down. The next thing we're going to do is take our first piece of lining, and I always turn the hoop over to the back. And take your lining and place it face down, and it should be, if you count them 1, 2, 3, 4 lines, it should be right edge to edge with this 4th line down, the bottom line, and make sure that you're equally spaced on the sides. So let's tape this down, 1 in the center. Am I recording? Yeah, I am. Okay, hopefully that'll hold. So pick your hoop up and let the lining fall over to the front, which it does naturally. It just falls right over to the front. And take it and fold it a couple times and tape it to the frame of the hoop, because we won't need this for quite a number of steps, so it's out of the way, which is where it should be. Now take whatever you're using as your main fabric or vinyl or whatever you're using, and place, I'm using this beautiful floral here. Take and excuse me, place it face down, edge to edge with the bottom edge of the zipper, making sure, of course, on the sides that you're okay, and tape this down. Okay, now stick this in the embroidery machine, and it will sew these line of stitches right here. It'll sew over that stitches that you see right here, these stitches here, it'll sew right back over those. So you should have about 1/4 of an inch seam allowance here. So put it back in the machine and let it do its thing. All right, let's look and see. Okay, it's fine on the front. Make sure you turn it over to the back to make sure that it make sure that it also caught on the back, which it did just fine. Okay, so back to the front we go. And now I'm going to take this piece of cobbled together batting that I put together with tape, and I'm going to place it a 1/4 inch or so, 1/8 of an inch below the stitch line here, and I'm going to fold. And I forgot to turn my iron on, but I'm going to fold this main piece of fabric down like this, and I'm going to give it a little press to make sure I have a nice crease right here where my finger is. So I'll be running step 4 after I do that, which will run stitches along the right here where my finger's at, underneath the zipper here, or the zipper coils. It'll go all the way around and to the bottom, the sides, and kind of just as you might say, a basting stitch, even though it's I'm not using long stitches, but I'm using regular 2.0 millimeter stitches. So it'll run that, and let me stop the camera while I do the press it and stick it in the machine and let it run that, and I'll be right back. Okay, I ran step 4, and you can see that it did a basting stitch all the way around. And now I'm going to stick it back in the machine, and it's going to run a stitch right along the top here, which is somewhat unnecessary. What you're going to do is place whatever you're using as your applique piece. You're going to place that down over this entire the top here. So this is just showing you where you need to be as somewhat of a placement stitch right along through here. Like I say, I guess I could have just said place face down, or not face down, but just place your applique piece covering this, and that would have been fine. But I put it in 2 steps, placement stitch and a stitch to tack it down. So let me run the placement stitch. Okay, you can't really see any difference, maybe slightly, but it ran the stitches right along the same top stitch that I was telling you about a moment ago. And so take whatever you're using as your applique and just place it over the design, and it's going to run that stitch one more time to tack this down. So let's do that, and I'll be right back. Okay, you can see that this piece of what will be applique has been sewn down, and we're going to put it back in the machine and run step 7, which is going to be the outline of the flap, I call it, the flap of the purse, even though there's not a real flap, but just kind of a illusion to be a flap. So let me do that. You, of course, wouldn't have taken this out of your machine. You would have just ran this next step, but I wanted to show you. So let me do that, and I'll be right back. All right, the next thing we're going to do is you need to take your applique scissors, and you need to cut right above this line here and remove this top piece. Just cut it straight across. Then you need to take your scissors and cut down on this side of this stitch and remove this bottom part where you only have this piece here left. So let me find them because they seem to have disappeared, and I'll do that and be back momentarily. All right, I've done the trimming as I said I would, and this is what you should have left. Now I'm going to put the hoop back in the machine, and it's going to do the placement stitch for what I would call an emblem, I guess, right here in the center. So let me run that placement stitch, and I'll be right back. All right, you can see here where the placement stitch is located, and now I'm going to take one of these little pieces of fabric. Like I say, this is about the size of a postage stamp. So take just, I don't know, 2 by 2 or at least 2 inches wide should be fine. And I'm going to take this and try to get this beautiful yellow, well, that's right to the edge. Okay, I think that'll be okay there. Let me see if I'm okay on the sides. Yes, and I'm going to tape that up here just to hold it. Okay, so it doesn't move. And I'm going to stick this in the machine and it's going to sew this down. Okay, I think you can see where this has been sewn down. I'm going to take my applique scissors and trim all around this little postage stamp, and I think that'll be real pretty there. So let me do that, and then we're going to start running the beautiful quilting on the top here and down here. So let me trim this first and I'll be right back. All right, you can see where I have trimmed I'm now calling it a postage stamp. Trim the postage stamp all around, and it'll be sewn with some beautiful stitching later around the edges, so we don't have any raw edges. But right now I'm going to put the hoop back in the machine, and there's going to be some beautiful stitching here on this top portion. So let me do that, and I'll be back in a bit. All right, that was step number 10. Put this lovely quilting here, and then step number 11 is going to do the same to the lower portion. So let me run that and I'll be back. All righty, I have completed now the beautiful quilting on this area here and down here. I think it's just really so beautiful. So our next step will be a line of decorative stitches across this area here with the raw edge to cover this raw edge. So that would be step number 12, and I'm going to use the same. You see I changed to this purple. I'm going to use purple right through here, but I think I'm going to change back to green when it gets to this part and around this postage stamp. So let me run this part up here and I'll be right back. All right, step number 12 has been completed, and you can see it's beautiful rick-rack type stitching along the top there, covering the ugly raw edges. Now I'm going to change the next thing to do. The next step is along through here with the same stitching covering these raw edges, and I'm going to change, I think, back to green for that. So let me do that and I'll run step number 13. So be back momentarily. All right, I have run now the final step here. No, not the final step, but the step, all of this beautiful stitching is completed, and this was the last part, which was step number 14. Now we're finally ready to getting down to the brass tacks here, finishing up the bag. The next thing we need to do is release this lining piece. So let's take this piece of tape off. Wow, tape is really stuck. Oh, okay, well, there's two pieces there. Okay, and let it roll over to the back where it belongs. And let's remove this tape here from the sides also. Okay. And let's pull this down tautly and retape it. Oh, is this in the, no, it's not in the, okay. I'm taping it here. And over here, see, over here. And actually at this point I'm going to get rid of this piece of what I'm using, a stabilizer, from the back of the zipper, and I just use paper towels, but I'm not recommending that. I'm just telling you what I use. You use whatever you're familiar with, but I like it because I can just use my fingernail, and there we are. Okay, it's a little ragged, but it'll be okay. Alrighty, now let me put it back in the machine, and it's going to stitch down this piece of lining, so I'll be right back. Alright, let's look and make sure that was sewn down, and it was. It's just fine. Alrighty, so now let's take this tape off the side over here. Okay, and let's open the zipper about 3/4 of the way, and let me get my little attachment points for a crossbody strap, and I usually put them about 1 inch in from the side seams. So, and I'm going to use this beautiful stitching here as my line of reference to line basically the top of the metal key ring to, let me see, that looks to be about 1 inch in, and I'm going to tape it down at the top, and I'm going to tape the metal key ring down because it will escape and get somewhere you don't want it to be, so gotta be careful with that. And that looks about right on that side. Okay. Alrighty. And then we're going to take our, whatever you're using for your back piece, whether it's cloth or vinyl, take your back piece and place it face down, making sure that you are covering the entire, am I recording? Yes, I am. The entire design, and just making sure that you are about at least 1/4 inch past the top of the zipper, which I am, and it's also fine at the bottom and the sides. And take whatever you are using for batting and place your batting on top of that, right over it. And then this will be step 16. It will, you've moved your zipper in, which is extremely important. Make sure you've done that. It will, in essence, go around all 4 sides, closing the bag up. And if you have a machine that you're able to increase the height of the embroidery foot, you might want to increase it now because this is fairly thick. You don't want to dredge into your fabric or batting and cause a disaster, because I know that can happen from experience. I have baby lock machines and brother machines, and I know at least the higher end models do have an adjustment for that, so that's what I would suggest. Take it for what it's worth. And if you don't have a way to do that, just watch it with an eagle eye to make sure you can stop it in case it starts to do that. Anyhow, let me stick this in the machine and run step number 16. Alrighty, we're down to our last step, step number 17, and take your last, you should only have 1 piece of fabric left, which is the other piece of lining. Take it and place it face down over the design, and again, make sure that you're at least 1/4 inch above this, above the outline of the design. and make sure you're okay on both sides, and it looks good. Let me tape it down on all four corners, and we'll run this, and then see, I'm making a mistake already. All right, I think that'll hold. Okay, stick this in your machine and run the last step. Alrighty, that last step has been run, and let's see what happened here. Yes, it left us a nice turning area here, a gap in the bottom, which is what it was supposed to do. And now let's remove this from the hoop. So loosen your hoop up, and okay, any tape on that? No. Any tape on this? I feel some. Okay, no, tape's all gone, I believe. All right, put this aside. And take a pretty sharp pair of scissors, and I cut from the back here because I can see better. So take and go in at an angle here on this side, and then turn your scissors and just follow around about 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch away from the stitch line. Okay. Okay. All right, and then come around this last corner and stop right there where the stitching stops, and then go at from an angle, go at it from an angle, and cut this bit away here. Okay, you're not gonna, okay, come on. All right. Well, that usually comes away so nicely, but it's not wanting to. All right. Okay, that looks good. Throw away all this mess, get it out of the way so you can see what you have. Okay. All right. Now what you need to do is pull back these pieces of lining, and then everything, all of this fabric and batting and such can be cut off right just above the stitch line here, which you can't see, but you know it's right there. So get rid of that. It is serving no purpose at this point. All right, throw that away. Okay, next thing we're going to do is we're going to turn the bag out through the gap here. So I do like working with, I do like vinyl, but it is a little harder to turn, but this is all fabric, so it should turn out very nicely, easily. Okay. All right. Okay, let me see. And of course, my iron had turned itself off because I like to give it a little press here before I take it over to the sewing machine and close the gap up at the bottom. So let me just let it warm up, and I'll be right back. Okay, my iron is warmed up, and I'm going to take it and give it a little press here. And Now I'm going to take and turn in this piece of lining here, the shorter piece, and I'm going to give it a little crease. All right. And then I'm going to take the longer piece and fold it inside and make sure those little tabs go off to the side over here to hold it in, which they did. And when you have it lined up nicely, give it another little press. And then let's go over to the sewing machine and close this gap. So from here over to here, close to the edge here, and close this gap up. And I'll do that and I'll be right back. Alrighty, I'm back, and I just can't ever see if this thing is, yes, it's working. And I have sewn this closed at the bottom. And now let's reach in and feel for that piece of tape. There it is there. And I'm going to take it out and open the other, try to open this other side here as far as you can and reach in. I feel the tape, there it is. And take it out. And now let's turn the bag out and see what we have. I think it's going to be, oh, there's a little piece of thread. Well, I'll do that later. I won't take time right now. But here we are. Okay. Oh. All right. Well, alrighty, that turn your zipper the way it should be, and close the zipper, and take your iron, and I'm not gonna iron over this directly. I'm going to put my pressing cloth. I don't want to iron over the pretty stitching because it might scorch it. Okay. And that so that looks beautiful, and I think this is just really a lovely little bag, and I hope you've enjoyed watching me make it, and I hope if you obtain the bag you'll make something beautiful for yourself or a family member or friend. And I just want to thank you, and I always take time to thank those who continue to support and encourage me. It means so much. So hope you have a great rest of the day, and I'll, as I said, there's probably 6 of these similar theme type bags I've got planned. I'll be coming out with, 6, 7 more. Also, you can get the backing that it has this stitching or this stitching. This is called diamonds with single lines, and this is called diamonds with triple lines. So there are 2 separate backings available for this design. And yes, there is a problem here. That did not get caught. I've got to make an adjustment on the design, but I will make that before any are sent out, so that's disappointing. But it actually doesn't affect the functioning. It's all sewn down where it should be, but it's not the way it should be. So yes, I'll take care of that and get that fixed before you receive it. So anyhow, thank you again. You have a great Sunday. Bye-bye.